All right, so welcome, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Lab Wednesday. This month, we thank you for joining us. We have a special new series that we're coming out with, which is the College App Craze series. So today's webinar, we're going to cover College Apps 101, how to apply to college using the Common App application. So again, I am your host, Ms. Tucker. I'm our Ed Associate of College and Career Readiness, and I have a special partner with me. Inez, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Inez Ford, also an ed associate with the Office of College and Career Readiness, and I'm stationed at Mervo.
Awesome. And I'm stationed at Dunbar as well. So welcome. We'll go through this webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we will get to your questions. If you're watching this video asynchronously, feel free to review the information in our description box or send us an email at the end of the webinar. So let's get started.
Alrighty, everybody. In terms of the agenda, today we're going to talk to you about what is the Common App because I'm sure you've heard about it. We're going to show you how to create your own Common App account and how to match it to Naviance. That pretty much just links all the information that you put on Naviance to your Common application. We're going to give you a step-by-step tutorial of the Common App. We're going to answer some of the frequently asked questions about the Common App, and then there's going to be a survey at the end that helps us to get better for next week's Lab Wednesday. Okay, you may not know it, but 1 million students apply to college using the Common application each year. So again, we're going to talk to you about what is the Common App.
That's a lot of people also. That means a lot of people are using it and it's working for a lot of people. So the Common App is a great resource to get started on your college application.
Yep. So what is the Common App? So it's an online college application that allows students to apply to multiple colleges using one single application. Over 900 colleges accept the Common App. It helps you track deadlines and documents for potential colleges. So again, you're just doing one application that you can send to multiple schools. Okay, so getting started with the Common App, you definitely, we would recommend doing a to-do list. Um, Pretty much you create your Common App account, you select the colleges that you're going to apply to. You need to match your Common App to Naviance. And the reason that's important, let's say one of your teachers writes you a recommendation letter, like you're gonna you make that request on Naviance. You would, if your school is using Naviance, you would go into Naviance. If I was your teacher, you would go into Teacher Recs and request a recommendation letter from me. When I write it, when I finish it, I'm gonna upload it to Naviance, but you have to match your account so that that letter that I would write would also transfer over to your Common App. So if you use your Common application to apply for like Penn State, for example, and I was your teacher and I wrote you that recommendation letter, again, when I finish it, it's going to go on Naviance. But when you match it, that letter is going to transfer over to your Common App so that the people at Penn State can read my actual recommendation letter. And we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I just wanted you to understand like why you need to match your Common App to your Naviance account. We're going to talk about completing all the sections and then how you actually sign and submit your Common App.
Great. Again, if you have any questions about what we shared so far, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And just going back to why the Common App, like Ms. Ford said, the Common App goes to over 900 colleges and it's a streamlined process to apply to the schools of your choice. Every school won't be on the Common App, but the majority of 900 or so, it's a lot. So you want to make sure that you take advantage of that tool, because if you don't, then say you have 10 colleges, you have to do 10 individual applications, and who has the time or the energy to do that? Okay, so take advantage. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to share a live tutorial of how to access and complete the Common application. Ms. Ford, she'll monitor the chat if you have any questions as I go along. So let's go ahead and get started. You're going to go to www.commonapp.org. And once you get there, your screen will look like this. We see a really lovely message. It says your future starts here. And we're going to go to the top there. It says create an account. If you do not already have a Common App account, you're going to create an account. Okay, and let's get started. So they have several options for account creation. For first year students, that's students who have never attended college before, we're going to select first year student. And then we're going to add in our information. So we're going to add in an email address. Please add an email address that you use and you check routinely. When I say routinely, I mean every day, if not once a week. You don't want to include an email address that you might not remember or that you don't know the password to or anything of that nature. So make sure that you add an email address that you're going to check, write down your information. You want to add a password. These are all the criteria for the password. So it took me a while to come up with one that I could remember and write down for myself. But your password needs to be between 10 and 32 characters. You need to have one uppercase and lowercase letter, one number, one special character. So that could be an exclamation point, question mark, asterisk, anything of that nature, and no spaces. You're going to add in your first and last name and your phone number and your date of birth. And you're also going to add in your current address. It's going to ask you some additional information about where you live. And it's going to ask which of these things best describe you. So are you applying as a first-year student and plan to start college in 2020 or 2021? Are you planning to start college in 2022? Are you planning to start college in 2023 and beyond? The majority of us as graduating seniors are going to select, I'm applying as a first-year student and I will be starting college in 2020 or 2021. That's where the majority of us fit in. If you are a sophomore or junior, perhaps I'm watching this video and you want to get started, get a head start on your Common App, you would select one of the following options. The last few questions are just disclaimers. Does Common App have permission to share your contact information with the colleges so that they can communicate with you? Does Common App have permission to contact you directly via email, phone, or text? And lastly is all those great terms and conditions that we will take the time to read and we check and we create in our account. Once we have our account created, we're going to log in using the login button and then put in the same information that you just created, that you just used to create your account. Once you do all that fun login stuff as a first-year student, your dashboard is going to come up and your dashboard is going to look like this. It's going to say, welcome, Alexis, welcome, Inez, welcome, Albert, welcome, Adenike. And then we're going to get started. So the first thing we want to do is select a list of colleges. I have my college list on my here it is. My college list right here. I have Howard University on my college list. I have UMBC on my college list, and I have Penn State. You won't see any colleges here because you haven't done it yet. So we'll go over to college search, and we'll add in those 3 schools for now. Whatever schools you want to add, but I'm going to add my own. And then I'm going to plus the plus sign to add the college, and I'm going to do it again. University of Baltimore. Let's select UMBC. Perfect, UMBC. And the last school I'm going to add is Penn State in University Park, Pennsylvania. So I've added my 3 schools of interest. You can add definitely more than that. Now I'm going to go over to my colleges. These are the colleges that I have selected. And if you go back over to your dashboard, you'll see the same information that our applications are in progress. So once we go over to the My Colleges tab, the next step is going to be very important for you. The first thing you want to do is sign your FERPA waiver. And it's very important that you don't forget this because your FERPA waiver is the only way that your recommenders, being your teachers or other recommenders for your letters of recommendation, will be able to push your letters of recommendation forward. If you do not sign the FERPA waiver, they don't have permission to do that. So there's a portion of your application that will be incomplete. So you want to make sure that you go to your college, My College tab, go to any of the colleges that you have listed, click recommenders and FERPA, and you want to, it's going to say sign FERPA waiver, because I've already done mine, so mine looks different. And then your FERPA waiver for each of your schools will be good to go. You'll see green check marks next to your recommenders and FERPA. So that's the first thing we want to do. We want to sign our FERPA waiver so that our teachers can give us really solid letters of recommendation. Okay, the next thing we're going to do after we have our FERPA waiver signed is we're going to go over to Naviance. And Naviance, this is where Ms. Ford was speaking about matching our application. So we need to match our Naviance account, which is already existing, with our newly created Common App application. And the reason that's important because it helps us sync the data, and it helps your teachers and counselors be able to monitor and view where you are in your college application process. And that way we only have to use one system, and you don't have to go over to Naviance to do this and Common App to do that. They're married, they're together, they're down for life. So what we want to do is go, sorry, Anna, what'd you say?
Oh, I just laughed when you said they're married. That's all.
They are. So we want to go to colleges that we are applying to. And my Common App is already created because I went to college years ago. My account is matched. But since if yours is not, you are going to go up to colleges that I'm applying to. And then you're going to see this really bright pink banner that says it looks like you are not currently able to apply to any Common App schools because we haven't matched our account. So we want to click on this match account button. Here we see a sign that once you match your account, your FERPA status can no longer be changed. So that goes back to the FERPA waiver thing. So scroll down, and then you're going to add in your Common App email address. Whatever email address you use to create your Common App account, you have to use the same exact one. Drop that email address there, verify your date of birth, and then this button will turn blue, Naviance blue. And you're going to click match accounts. And once you do that, then your screen will look like mine. Okay, if you have any questions about that, can you drop it in the chat? Ines, can you let me know if there are any questions?
Sure. Right now, no one has any questions.
Okay, cool. So now let's go back to Common App, and then we're gonna get this thing rolling. So in order to apply to your schools, this is the one streamlined application that you will use. So you go over to the third tab that's labeled Common App, and you're going to complete each of these sections in order for your application to be complete, starting with the profile. So the profile asks you just general information, demographics about who you are. So again, it's taking information from when we first created our accounts. We don't have to do our name again. We don't have to share other things like that. But we're going to write in our name. We're going to write in a nickname. If you have a preferred name, you can definitely add that in here. Have you ever used any other names, legal names? If so, press yes, and then you'll give your answer. If no, of course, click no. You're going to add in your gender. And if you would like to specify things around your gender identity, I recommend that you do it in this box below. And then verify your date of birth, which my birthday is coming up, if you haven't noticed. The next section, we're going to go over to address. You want to verify your permanent living address. I did not live at North Avenue, but that's the one that I used for now. If you have an alternate address, make sure that you include it here. If you don't, then no alternate address. The next section, it's going to ask for contact details. So, of course, your phone number. Then it's going to ask you about demographics. These are things like your religion. Are you involved in the U.S. Armed Forces? Are you Hispanic or Latinx? And then it's going to ask questions around your race. Once you've done all that, please check yes, I have completed this section to my satisfaction, and press continue. The next section is about geography. So where were you born? And where have you lived outside of the US if this applies to you? So for example, if I'm an ESOL student and say I was born in Honduras, I can select Honduras. I can add in my city of birth, and I would write in the number of years that I've lived in the United States and number of years I've lived outside of the United States for additional information for those colleges. Same thing applies for language. If you speak any other languages, if you speak English, of course, just write one if you only speak English, and then add in your language. If you speak multiple languages, so for example, if I spoke Spanish, I would select 2. I would select English as, I would select Spanish as my first language, and I would select English as another language. Do I speak it? Do I read it? Do I write it? And do I speak it at home? We're almost done with our profile section, and then we'd add information about our citizenship. So are you a US or US national citizen? Do you have dual citizenship? Do you have citizenship in your possible birth country and in the US? Are you a US permanent resident? Are you a refugee or asylee, or are you a non-US citizen? And lastly, this is extremely important, and I'm probably going to circle back to this before we end, is your Common App fee waiver. This is really important because this application fee waiver waives your right of having to pay for any fees that are associated with your college applications. College application fees can be pretty expensive sometimes just to get your application on the table and to get it read by someone. And that's how they pay the people who actually read your applications. But in the city of Baltimore, all students qualify for Common App fee waivers. So where it says our member colleges want to make sure that application fees do not pose a barrier for any student who wishes to apply for admission. Do you feel that your financial circumstances might qualify you for an application fee waiver? Select yes, not no, but yes. And then it's going to ask you about the indicators of your economic need. All students in Baltimore City Public Schools are going to select option 2 because all students in Baltimore City Public Schools are eligible for free or reduced lunch. If any of these other indicators might apply to you, such as your family receives public assistance or you have subsidized housing, you can also select those, but everyone in Baltimore is going to select option 2. I am enrolled in or am eligible to participate in the federal free or reduced price lunch program. Very important. If there are any questions about that, please drop it in the chat. At the bottom, you're going to sign your name for the fee waiver. My name is Alexis M. Tucker. And then it's just going to ask you a question about if you want to receive information from an organization called Strive for College. It's a college prep program. You can select yes or no and press continue. So after all that talking, we've completed everything that's necessary for our profile. Now it's going to ask us just a few questions about our family and household information. What is your parents' marital status? If your parents are married, select married. If they're separated or divorced, select either of those. If your parents are never married, select never married for additional context about your household. And then it's going to ask with whom do you permanently reside? Parent 1 or parent 2, both parents, or a legal guardian. If you are in foster care or anything of the like, you would select ward of the state or the court. Do you have children? Yes or no? And then it's going to ask additional information about each of those parents. Okay, so make sure that you read pretty closely. It's just general information mostly, such as occupation, education level, and things of that nature. So the next section is education. So this is where we add in our high school. And please make sure that you include the full name of your high school so that the application can identify that school and find the CEEB code, which is necessary for the colleges. So I go to Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School. My date of entry was August 2017. Once I first started the 9th grade. Is this a boarding school? No. Did you or will you graduate from this school? Absolutely. And then you want to add in your graduation date, which is June of 2021. The next section asks about your progression towards graduation. So it's going to ask things like, did you or will you graduate early? Will you graduate late? Meaning, will you possibly be in summer school? Do you have additional credits to recover? Did you or will you take time off? Did you take a gap year, which pretty much no one will qualify for? Or was there no change in progression, which is the majority of the answer for a lot of us. So you'll check no change in progression and press continue. The next section asks about other schools that you might have attended. So if I didn't attend Dunbar High School all 4 years of high school, I would select any other schools that I attended and add in information around my dates of attendance for other high schools that I might have transferred from. And I can provide additional information about why I left the school. So for example, if I used to attend North County High School in where is that? Is that Anne Arundel, Inez? I believe. If I attended North County High School in Anne Arundel, I transferred because my parents moved. I transferred because we moved to Baltimore. That's all you have to say to provide additional information, which would be required. The next section is about colleges and universities. Have you ever taken coursework at a college or university and you want to indicate the number of colleges that you've done that at? And for instance, if you have not, it's perfectly fine. Please press 0. If you have, say that you're involved in a dual enrollment program or anything of that nature, maybe PTech, you're going to add in the college that you receive those credits from, and then add in course details. So I did dual enrollment in high school, or I did a summer program, or I received credit directly from the college for taking a class. And then you want to add in the dates that apply to your time at that school. And if you've earned a degree, which is not too likely for the majority of our students now, but if you earned a degree such as your associates at that school, you would identify that, but it's not a required question. So if it does not apply to you, please leave it blank. The next section is grades. You want to add information about your academic background at your school. So my graduating class size, let's say my graduating class size is 300 students. They're going to ask you about your class rank, and we'll select exact. My class rank could be number 7. Then we're going to add in information about whether our rank is weighted or unweighted. You'll have to check with your counselor for that information. And then we're going to add our GPA scale. So the majority of our, or all of our GPAs are on a 4.0 scale. And then I'll add my GPA. Maybe I have a 3.7, let's say that. And that might include AP or honors classes for weighted, or if it does not include AP and honors classes, you select unweighted and continue. How am I doing, Inez? Any questions? See if I can check. Awesome. Let's see. Next, we're going to go through current or most recent year courses. So if you, the question says, please list all courses you are taking this academic year. If you are not currently enrolled, please list courses from your most recent academic year. And you're going to select the number of classes that you'd like to report for your current schedule. And then everyone's on a semester schedule. We're not on trimester or quarterly schedule. And press continue. We're doing great, guys. We're almost done, I promise. Next, they're going to ask us about honors or awards. Do you wish to report any honors related to your academic achievements beginning with the 9th grade? If you have honors or awards to continue, to enter, such as, let's say, National Honor Society or any awards that you've received, you'll add in the title, you'll add in the grade at which you received that honor or award, and then you'll add in the level of recognition. Was this a school-based award? Did I win a state or a regional award or championship? Was it national or international? And you can add up to 5. The next section is community-based organizations. So here you'll select any organizations that you currently that you currently work with that offer you assistance in your college application process. So for instance, if you have College Bound at your school, I would select one, and then I go in and I type College Bound. Just like that. And if you have a counselor that you work with pretty closely, you can add in the name of that counselor. For instance, if you have Miss, let's make up a name. Let's just go real simple. Miss Jane Doe. You'll add in Jane Doe, the email address of that counselor, and their phone number if you know it. If you don't, it is completely okay. Last section in your education section is future plans. This is very easy and straightforward. They're asking about your career interests. So what is it that you want to do with your college education, and what is the highest degree that you intend to earn? So for instance, if I wanted to be a dentist, I'd scroll through this list of options, which you have tons. I'd select dentist, and then the highest degree that I need to earn to become a dentist is a DDS. So I would select medicine, but they have other options as well. And press continue. Okay, now we have about 3 more sections, so the last one won't really apply. For testing, they're asking us, in addition to sending official score reports as required by colleges, do you wish to self-report scores or future test dates for any of the following standardized tests? So if you have scores to report around your SAT, you would follow the directions, or your ACT, and add them in here. If you have not taken it, guys, I promise you it's okay. We have a session coming up on test optional schools and what that really means. Just select no. And the next question is for international applicants. Is promotion within your educational system based upon standard leaving examinations, which won't really apply to many of us. So click continue. Told you that one was quick. Activities. So these are your extracurriculars. Any of the following count towards extracurriculars. So if it's an art or music program, a club, community engagement organization, even if you have family responsibilities. So for instance, say you help your aunt or your mom take care of younger siblings or cousins, that counts as an activity. It might not be one you want to do, but it's one that still has value and it speaks to your ability to lead and your character as a student. So please do not discount any responsibilities that might fall within your family context. Any hobbies that you have, sports, work or volunteer projects, or other experiences that might be meaningful for you. So for instance, a lot of students that I know a lot of people that I know during this COVID-19 time have really taken time to hone in their hobbies and actually create them, turn them into businesses. So if you run a small business, I know several of my students who own lip gloss and clothing, things like that. Those are things that you can report to colleges as activities that are meaningful to you and that again speak to your ability as a student and as a young person. All right, so you want to add in those things and add in the time spent completing this activity and do you intend to participate in this activity in college, and you can add up to 10 activities.
And I would just like to jump in really quickly, especially with regard to work. Sometimes students skip over that, but that's really important. I mean, I had a student a few years back who applied to Penn State, and his GPA was a little bit, GPA and SAT scores were a little bit lower than what they normally look for. But he was working at Target like 35 hours, like maybe 32 hours a week, which is almost full time. And he did that. He had been doing that since his junior year, and he was using that money to help pay bills in his house. And not only did he mention that in the Common App, he also wrote about it in his essay, and he got in. And I really believe some of that had to do with the fact that he really explained that, like, he learned to really manage his time because he was working almost a full-time job outside of high school. So he talked a lot about, like, studying over the weekend, staying up late at night, getting off work at 11 o'clock. And I know for some, and being responsible, that he was taking his paycheck and again paying the electric bill or paying the cable bill, not necessarily buying sneakers. Not there's anything wrong with that, but I just think that, like, you want to talk about that because you may think like, okay, yeah, I work at, I don't know, Chick-fil-A for 20 hours a week, but that means you're responsible. That means you know how to manage your time. That means you know how to prioritize deadlines. So don't necessarily just think like, I've had students like, oh, I'm not involved in a bunch of extracurricular activities because I work a lot. Well, that's okay. Talk about that. Or if there's some activity that you have been, you've been involved and you've been playing the piano since third grade, talk about that too. But, just make sure that, like, the things you're passionate about and the things you do outside of school, you mention it here. And a lot of the times, those are good topics for your essay that you're going to be asked to write. And we'll, of course, talk about that right now in the writing section.
Glad you brought that up, Inez. So the last section that we'll go over today is the personal essay or personal statement. And like Ms. Ford just said, this is a great opportunity to really highlight and contextualize who you are as a student in ways that might not show up in other parts of your application. So like Ms. Ford just shared, if you're a student that works part-time or you have a family circumstance or you have, like we said before, business, things that the college wouldn't know about you from other information that you've previously shared. So in the Common App, when you scroll down, there'll be 7 writing prompts. So 7 options for how you can begin to write your essay. So you can take the time to read through these. They ask questions about your background and identity. They ask questions about obstacles that you've overcome, times where your beliefs might have been challenged, times when you made a big accomplishment. So these are really times to really brag on yourself and share who you are outside of this academic context or outside of things that they already know about you. You do not want to spend your college essay sharing what you've already stated. I know that you're the valedictorian. I know that you have a 3.5 GPA. I know that you play football, basketball, soccer at your school. What don't I know about you, and why is it that I should admit you to my college or university based on what it is that you have to share and what you have to say? Okay. So, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was saying I would just definitely like to jump in on that. Make sure you relate it to, ultimately, keep in mind that the person is reading this is trying to evaluate you as a student. So to me, what takes a good essay up to an excellent essay is when you tie it back into what does this impact you as a student? Like I said, if you're working 30 hours a week, you don't necessarily just write an essay like I'm working at Taco Bell for 30 hours a week, but what does that have to do with you as a student? How does the fact that you work 30 hours a week and you balance everything else, what does that have to do with you as a student? If you've experienced some sort of trauma in your life, like I had a student write a really strong essay last year because her dad was incarcerated. Her dad pretty much was locked up her entire life. And she talked about that and how that made her stronger, how that made her stronger as a student. So just remember, whatever you talk about, ultimately, don't just say, this is, you have this topic and that's it. Like, you've got to, in the end, you've got to tie it back to how that impacts you as a student, because that is what they're trying. There's ultimately the person that's reading this is deciding whether or not to admit you into the school. So how does that experience you talk about relate back to you being a student? Don't just say like, you know, I practiced for 2 years and make the varsity basketball team. Well, if you were out practicing, and putting in those extra hours, what does that say? That says something about your work ethic, right? You're driven, you work hard, you know how to sacrifice. So ultimately, relate everything you say back to you being a student. And I wanted to hone in on that last topic, which is share an essay on any topic of your choice. If you've already written maybe a really strong essay, it's nothing wrong with using it. There's nothing wrong with you don't have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. If in 11th grade, if your English teacher gave you an assignment and it was an essay that maybe you've already read over and over and you got an A and you feel like, wow, this is a strong essay, then use it. I mean, you can create. The nice thing about the Common App is if you don't like any of the essay prompts they give you, you get to create one of your own. So if you've got an essay that is already really strong, feel free to use it. I mean, if you feel led to write about something else, I'm certainly not telling you like not to do that. But again, if you've already maybe 10th grade or 11th grade, you had an essay that you worked really hard on, take that and tweak it and use it for this. Don't necessarily rewrite another one. And whatever essay you write, and again, this is former English teacher and me speaking, please make sure you have multiple people read it. This is not the time to write an essay for 20 minutes and just like, okay, I'm submitting, I'm adding it to my Common App. Make sure several other people read it. You should read it out loud, print it out, old school, print it out and read it out loud. That is how you catch mistakes. Then once you do that, have a family member or somebody that you trust, have them read it out loud. I know a lot of people say, ask your English teacher, and that's great, but I can tell you English teachers get swamped. Maybe if there's a history teacher or even a math teacher, just somebody else that you trust, make sure you read it out loud and you have several people read it. And I was just one last thing I would say with the essay. Ideally, don't when you have someone else read it, don't talk to them, don't give them background and say like, oh, this is the essay I'm writing, this essay is about blah 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 blah. Don't explain anything, because at the end of the day, they should be able to read it just like that admissions rep at whatever school and understand it perfectly. If you've got to take 10 minutes to explain what you mean in that essay, then you need to rewrite it. So just give it to the person and say, read it, tell me what you think. They should be able to like report back to you like, oh, this is the main point. And if they can't, again, it's an indication to rewrite that essay. But this is really your time to shine. Like Miss Tucker said, this is the time that you get to talk about you. This is the time you get to explain like what makes you unique and how that uniqueness, how that relates to you being a student. Because when they get your application, they're just going to see your basic name, address, your email, that sort of thing. They're going to see the high school you attended, and they're going to see your transcript. But that's a small part of who you are. That's not really like, there's much more to you than that. So use this time, like Ms. Tucker said, to talk about the things that they cannot see on your transcript. And it's really, really important. This is also your time to show that I can write at a college level. So do not write an essay at the last minute. Just keep in mind that they're using this to decide, are you college material? Are you a good fit for their school? And can you write on a college level? And part of writing on a college level is editing and making sure that you reread it multiple times before you turn it in. Okay.
Thank you. And what I will share about the last option, sharing an essay on a topic of your choice, please make sure that it relates to, like Ms. Ford said, your abilities as a student. Make sure that it's something that contextualizes who you are and your thoughts and convictions within the context of this college application. I don't want to read essays about William Shakespeare and Macbeth. Like, give me something that makes sense for you as an applicant to this college or university, something that sheds insight and perspective on your values, what you want to do in the future, what you can offer the college or university of choice. Do you have strong leadership skills that could benefit our school, could take us to the next level? You really want to sell yourself. So make sure that you're very careful about that last option of sharing an essay on the topic of your choice. And definitely, we can say it a million times: proofread, 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 please. So now we've gone enough about that. I'm going to show you how you can add your essay in here. I do not recommend, let me type it. I do not recommend typing your essay here. You never know what can happen, especially these days in 2020. Your essay could accidentally be deleted. You can backspace. It can vanish. So what I'm going to show you is how to integrate or upload your essay using your Google Drive. Everyone has a Google account as a student. And again, be mindful of your minimum and maximum word count. So we're going to go to upload from Google Drive. We're going to log in with our BCPS accounts or whatever account you rather use, but I'm definitely going to use my BCPS. And it's going to give us a list of files that we can use. And once you create your personal statement in your Google Docs, all you have to do is select it. So my personal statement is here. I'm going to double click there, and you can see that I don't have enough words because I just wrote a sentence. So it'll give you some insight on what you need to do in order to meet the requirements. And we're going to press continue. So if there are any questions about this personal statement piece, which is big, please, again, put them in the chat, or we'll take questions at the end. One of the last sections is about disciplinary history, which is really, really important. So this section is asking about any disciplinary violations that you might have experienced in high school from 9 to 12. So not before then, not middle school, not elementary school, that might relate to academic or behavioral misconduct that resulted in disciplinary action. When they say disciplinary action, they're talking about suspensions or expulsions or probation, actual serious consequences that you experienced. So you'll select yes or no. And what I do want to share around this is that this is not a make it or break it for your application. If you want to know information about what these colleges do with the disciplinary history, I'm going to drop a link into the chat that I found to be pretty helpful. And it tells you what each school does with that information. So some schools, they don't review it at all. So for instance, if I wanted to go to Kent State, well, no, not Kent State. If I wanted to go to Kettering University, it tells me that this response is never reviewed. If I did want to go to Kent State, it says that this response is reviewed as part of the admissions process. Every college has their own process or way. So if you're concerned, you would possibly want to reach out to the college just to get a little bit more information or context. Again, another example might be McDaniel College here in Maryland. The response is never reviewed. So do not let this part of your application make you anxious or apprehensive, or make you question your ability to be able to apply to this college, or like where you stand. It's not a make it or break it, okay? In the last section, promise, is about additional information. I thought this section was really cool because we're in this weird time of 2020 and in this COVID pandemic, and it gives us a chance to share some more information, again, about who we are as people, okay, as students and as whole individuals. So whatever we didn't share within the context of our application, we have the opportunity to share here. So do you wish to provide details or circumstances or qualifications that are not reflected in your application? Do you wish to share anything new on this topic? And you can add that information in here. And again, it gives you the same option to integrate your file from your Google Drive. So for instance, you might want to include information about I'm the caretaker of my family, or I work 30 hours a week, which hopefully not. I work 30 hours a week at Target to help support my family. Those are the types of things that you want to add in to better contextualize yourself as a student and as a person. The last section will not apply to us because it's not asking us for courses or grades. These are things that will be handled by your counselor for your transcripts in Naviance. So We talked a lot because the Common App is very lengthy. But again, it is the easiest way to get your college applications out there to a wide number of schools at one time. Can you imagine doing this for every single school that you want to apply to? Ugh, no. So once you get through each section, it's actually going to give you the option to submit. I do not have the option to submit because I didn't finish everything. And then you'll see a green banner that says, congratulations, you've completed your application, and you're able to move forward. So I'm going to go back over to our presentation. And then we can actually go through some frequently asked questions before we close out. So some questions that students might come to us about often are things about, well, how come my schools don't appear in Naviance? That might be because you didn't actually match your Common App to your Naviance account. So again, remember, going back to the beginning, and if you need to play this back, please feel free. You need to match your Common App account with your Naviance account. Second question, how come my recommender is blocked from uploading my letter of recommendation? I just received this question last week, and that might be because you didn't complete your FERPA release waiver that allows your teachers to upload your letters of recommendations for your Common App. And the last question might be around those letters of recommendation. I have students asking me all the time, are they able to read their letters of recommendations from school? And unfortunately, in Baltimore City, it's a policy that students are not permitted to view their LORs. When you sign that FERPA release waiver, you waive your rights to actually be able to read the letter so that the letter can be pushed forward to the schools. Any questions around that? Drop them in the chat. And this information is, again, reiterating the fee waiver policy. Please make sure that you go in and you select yes, and then we're selecting, again, free and reduced lunch. I'm going to pass it over to Inez to talk about upcoming sessions so that we can close out.
Okay. So we have a few more sessions in the month of November. November 11th, we're going to be talking about why college. I know that a lot of people, I'm sure in your family and just people that at school are talking about college, college, college. We want to backtrack a little bit and tell you like why and explain. And we're going to do that because you're going to do basically a budgeting exercise where you will get an understanding of how um, pursuing your education ultimately impacts your future budget. And we're going to talk about that on the 18th. Test optional because things have changed. 3 years ago, I'm sure Ms. Tucker would agree, we would never tell a student, you don't have to really worry about the SAT or the ACT, because that's just not true. But now things are completely different with COVID. Most students were unable to take an ACT or an SAT because schools were closed across the country. So colleges have had to adapt their test, how they evaluate tests. Many colleges are doing away with testing in general, in terms of evaluating your application, because they know most people can't test. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And on November 25th, we're going to do a virtual college tour. And basically, we're going to show you Bowie State University. It's a great website that Ms. Tucker actually showed me. I've never even seen before. And it's awesome. You can walk around the campus just like you're walking just like you're walking the campus in person yourself. And so we hope you really join us for these sessions, because we're excited to bring you this information.
Thanks, Inez. You want to go over the survey?
And so we have a survey that I'm actually going to drop the link in the chat right now, because we just want to get better. We want to find out we want to find out what you appreciated, what you didn't appreciate. If you have tips for us, we definitely want to hear them. So if we would really appreciate if you would take the time to fill out this survey. It does not take that long, shouldn't really take you more than 5 minutes, but it just gives us feedback and helps us to improve for next week. And if anybody has any questions, now would be a great time to ask. We're here. We hope you get started on your Common App soon if you haven't done so already.
Yes, and we just want to say thank you for joining us. Again, we know we went over a lot of information. So going to that survey and giving us feedback and even adding in questions that you might have is the best way that we can circle back to you and support you through the process. If you have any questions about matching your accounts, or about the FERPA waiver, or about the whole personal statement information that we went over, we're here to help you. So feel free to send us an email. My email is down below, and so is Ms. Ford's, and my College and Career Instagram for students is there as well. So with that, we want to say thanks, guys, and good luck on your Common App journey. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.